is Allie with the Perception Trainers, author of The Perception Diet, and today I want to give you a metaphor to perhaps help you understand your intuition, your mind, and your body on a little bit of a different level. And it is my hope that through this metaphor and through this kind of idea that I'm going to share, that you will start to understand how your intuition, your mind, and your body are all integral parts of you living your happiest, most fulfilled, most awesome life possible, but that each one of those parts, so the mind, the intuition, and the body, all need to be playing their correct roles in order for you to live your most fulfilled and awesome and happy life. And that when we put these elements of ourselves in positions that they are not meant to fill, that's when we run into trouble, okay? So for this metaphor, I want you to think of your life as a company, all right? So we understand that in a company, the CEO is the one with the main vision, right? So the CEO has to know where they want the company to go, what kind of path they want the company to take. They have to have like the big picture in mind, right? So you've got your CEO that's just basically like big picture. They might deal with some details, but they're mostly like the big picture portion of the company, right? And then we have the managers, and the managers are kind of the go-between between the CEO and the employees, okay? So it is the manager's job to take the vision of the CEO of where we're going with the company, what's the direction, what are we doing, and find the plan, the course of action that's going to need to be taken, and to figure out the little details so that the employees know what to do in order to take the company in that direction, right? And then we have the employees, which do the thing that the CEO and the manager have told them to do, right? So this is kind of the framework and the structure of the company. CEO has the main vision, right? Overarching, this is what we're doing. It is the manager's job to say, okay, that's your vision, how are we going to make it happen? And then it is the employee's job to go out and make it happen. Now, so in a fully functioning human being who has all of their parts of themselves working in the correct order, your intuition is the CEO, all right? So the intuition is the one that says, okay, in order to live a life that is most in alignment with my happiness, most in alignment with my joy, most in alignment with my giftings, most in alignment with who I am and what's going to make me the most fulfilled in this life, this is how we're going to do it, right? So I've surveyed all the options. We could be a doctor, we could be a lawyer, we could be a self-help coach, we could be a dancer, we could be all these things. And we could be in this relationship, we could be in this relationship, we could be in this relationship, we could be in this city, we could be in that city, we could eat this diet, we could eat that diet. So like the intuition has surveyed all the options. It's basically said, okay, we're going to go down the path of artist, we're going to go down the path of relationship with this person, we're going to go down the path of this, this, and this, okay? And then in this fully functioning human being, that is where the mind would come in and say, okay, so the intuition has decided we're going to be a painter. So now it is my job to figure out how are we going to get it so that we can be a painter? How are we going to figure out how to make that path work, right? So the mind would say, okay, we need to maybe take painting lessons. Maybe we need to sign up for some painting lessons. Maybe we need to buy some paints. Maybe we need to work a job so that we can earn some money to buy paint supplies and to buy these painting lessons. And then we need to set aside some time in the day or in the week to paint. Maybe we need to, start talking with other painters and figure out how they did what they did. So that's what the mind's job is, right? It's to figure out, okay, we're going to be a painter. That's the path, it's been decided. Now how are we going to make it happen? And then the body goes out and does that, right? So then your body goes out, you buy paints. You call the paint shop and you ask them, what kind of paints do I need? And maybe you call around and figure out where the painting lessons are happening and blah, 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 blah. You see what I'm saying, right? So intuition decides the path, what the path is, like what the destination is, what the goal is, where we're headed, right? The mind is the one that decides, okay, how are we going to make that vision happen? How are we going to go down that path? What are we going to do to make this happen? And how do we figure out how to make that path a thing? And then the body goes out and does it, right? And so this would be the ideal situation. But what most of us are doing what most of us are living right now. And the reason why so many of us feel completely out of tune and out of touch with what our path is and what's really right for us and feel like lost and don't know how to make a decision is because what we've done is we've put the mind in the position of CEO. We've taken the intuition and the body and we basically just kind of like put them down as like both of them as the employee, or the intuition just doesn't even play into it at all, right? So now if we have the mind in the CEO role, this is where we run into problems, because you see, it is the mind's job to figure out how the path could work. So this means if we have the mind in the CEO role, that means you can sit there and be like, okay, well, I can logically see how being a doctor would work for me. I can logically see how being a painter would work for me. I can figure out how being a self-help coach would be the path for me. I can figure out how being a dancer would be the path for me. You see what I'm saying? The mind can figure out how the path is going to work because that's its job. But if you put it in charge of deciding for you what the path is going to be, then we run into all this confusion where we feel like all of the options could work and we don't know how to choose what path to go down. We don't know how to choose like how to listen to ourselves. We don't know how to decide for ourselves what's going to be the best path because we can basically logically figure out how any path could work. We can basically figure out, well, you know, even though I didn't really feel that great talking to this person, you know, we could make it work in this relationship. Or maybe I went to this interview and I really didn't feel very great in the interview and I didn't feel excited. I felt nervous and I felt scared, but you see, I can figure out how this job would really help my career or really help me do this or really help me do that, and I can see how it could be beneficial and maybe I'll make all this money, so I should do it. See? And that's our problem, is that when we put the mind in the position of the CEO, the mind can convince us that anything could work out, because that's its job. So it's not doing anything wrong. It's just that when it's in charge of deciding what's right for you, it can basically decide that anything could be right for you. And therefore you will sit there and fret about your choices and what path to go down and what you should be doing for the rest of your life, and you'll be very confused. And you will, the most important thing is you will go down paths that you could have known were gonna suck, that you could have known were not gonna work out, that you could have known were going to be terrible based on what I'm going to tell you next. But instead, you used your mind to figure out how it could work, and therefore you went down a path that was never going to be right for you, and therefore it equaled pain, and therefore it didn't work out. Because we've all done that, right? We've all done this thing where we logically sat down and figured out how this thing could work, how this choice could be awesome, how this thing could work out, and then in actuality, it turns out terrible. And so basically what I'm going to say is now, at the beginning, when you're about to make a choice, the body, being the employee, you need to think that the body's got like a secret little in with the CEO, and they are in communication, and sometimes it is the manager that doesn't get the memo in between, all right? So when you are sitting down to make a decision, when you are sitting down to say, okay, what choice am I going to make? Am I going to be a painter? Am I going to be a lawyer? Am I going to be a dancer? Am I going to be whatever? Like I say, your mind has the ability to figure out how which one of these paths could work or could be beneficial for you. And that's its job. It's its job to figure out how any of these things could work, right? But if you tune into your body, you will know that when you sit there and you think about being a lawyer, it feels contracted, it feels scary, it feels nervous, it feels bad, it feels heavy. That's your intuition telling you, yes, there are certain things we could do and certain probabilities of how it could go. But if you go down that path, how you feel in your body is how you're going to feel on the road to that path. You see what I'm saying? If you feel like crap when you think about an option, that's your intuition saying that's not the path. Don't use your brain power to figure out how that could work, because that's not what's going to happen. If you go down this path, if you feel shitty and tight and tired and discouraged and scared inside your body, that's how it's going to feel to go down that path. Whereas if you feel relaxed or if you feel excited, that is, generally speaking, how you're going to feel as you go down that path. Now, so if we understand that how you feel in your body is an indication of what your intuition, the CEO, is saying, of how that path is going to be, that's how you make the decision of what path to go down, right? So when you sit down and you're trying to figure out which path am I going to do, if you start to tune into your body and how it feels when you consider your options, you will always have the clearest, most concise indication of which path is the most appropriate path for you and your joy. Now, that doesn't mean that when you head down the right path, or the path that felt exciting, the path that felt relaxing, that you're not going to hit roadblocks, that you're not going to hit things that don't feel good, that you're not going to hit things that are hard or challenging or whatever. That is totally going to happen, because a huge part of your right path is your growth and your expansion. And it is always through challenge and contradiction and contrast that we learn and grow. Not always. You can definitely learn and grow through like awesome things. That's totally a thing. But what I'm saying is that overall, you're going to feel the most fulfilled, the most blessed, the most happy, the most in alignment on this path than you would feel on any other path, right? So again, that's not to say that if you chose the path that felt shitty, that there wouldn't be moments where it felt good. That was going to happen, right? Contrast happens. But overall, right, you're not going to feel fulfilled going down this path, and you are going to feel fulfilled going down this path. So if you understand that what the intuition has done, it has surveyed all the options and it's chosen the best one. That is why we should follow our intuition, okay? Your intuition is not trying to take you down necessarily the easiest path. It's not necessarily trying to take you down the path of least resistance so much that like nothing terrible happens. It's trying to take you down the path of most fulfillment, of most growth, most important for your soul. And overall, it is going to feel the best, overall. Okay? And that is why we need to let our intuition be our guide. And this is why we cannot say, okay, the last time I followed my intuition, I did what I thought felt relaxing or felt exciting, and it became hard, and it became bad, and it wasn't easy, and it wasn't fun. That's not an indication that you made the wrong choice or that you shouldn't trust your intuition. That's an indication that says that, okay, the path that my intuition chose for me was a path of growth and a path of expansion, and there was going to be challenge, and there were going to be things that came up that weren't necessarily fun or weren't necessarily exciting, but they were exactly what I needed to get to be where I want to be, to get to feel how I want to feel. Because that is the ultimate goal, right? Your intuition is trying to lead you to feeling exactly how you want to feel, which is fulfilled and loved and excited and expanded and capable and all of these things. And it is going to require that you expand beyond where you are right now. And that's just what it is for everybody for the rest of life, right? I follow my intuition, right? Now, there have been lots and lots and lots of times where I learned that when I followed my mind and I let that be the thing that indicated what I should do, I was always very confused, and I always went down all these paths that I thought could turn out awesome, but even though I knew at the beginning were going to suck, right? I always had that hit of like, it feels like shit in my body. I shouldn't do this. Yeah, but it might equal money, and it might equal fame, and it might equal all these things, so I wouldn't do it. You see what I'm saying? And then it always never ends up being awesome. It always ends up being terrible. But again, right, I have had lots of moments where I followed my intuition of this feels the most exciting or this feels relaxing. And there were definitely challenges along that path. There were definitely roadblocks. There were definitely things that caused me to have to change and expand and grow and become better. And it was because I trusted that my intuition was leading me down the right path, even if it didn't feel good all the time, that I took the opportunity to grow and expand and learn and change and become better. And I always have found that when I do that, when I follow my intuition and then roadblocks come and I choose to allow myself to expand, that it's like I expand into the absolute best thing ever. And I do expand into what I want. So the path doesn't always look how I think it should look for me to feel how I want to feel, but that's okay, because I know that if I'm trusting my intuition and when roadblocks happen, those are there to grow me, those are there to expand me, and when I do those things and I face those things, I'm going to feel more how I want to feel. I'm going to have the life more in alignment with what I want to have. That my intuition is absolutely trustworthy, and just because something became hard or challenging doesn't mean that I made the wrong choice. That is what has enabled me to accomplish so many things in my life that are so amazing and get to this place where I feel so great in my life, and where I know that I can trust my intuition, and where I know that I can see myself through challenges, and that I can grow and that I can expand, and that life is never shooting me down a path in order to just make me feel like crap about myself, right? That everything is an opportunity, and everything that I face I can get through, otherwise it wouldn't be there, okay? So if you put your intuition in charge, right? It has surveyed all the options. You don't need to consider all the options. You don't need to think about how it all could work, because that doesn't matter. Your intuition knows that, right? If it feels relaxing or it feels exciting inside of your body, that is the intuition, and that says, okay, now the manager, your mind, figures out how to make that happen. So pick that path and then allow your mind to do its job and figure out how to make that happen and to take the steps. And maybe you don't know all the steps, okay? Because that's another thing. You're probably never going to know all the steps. But your mind can figure out at least, okay, what's the next step we need to take? Okay, now what's the next step we need to take from there? Okay, now what's the next step we need to take from there? And then your body takes that action, right? In 3D reality, we take the action, we do the thing, we go on the path, and then it just gets clearer and clearer and clearer and better and better and better, right? So that's how that works. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I'd love to hear from you. If you want to find me on Facebook, we're Perception Trainers. Find me on Instagram, Ali_PerceptionTrainers. Our website, perceptiontrainers.com, and the book is at theperceptiondiet.com. All right, talk to you later.